In just this momentary lull, I would assume that the memory of every person listening at this moment has flashed back to that day in April 1945 when Franklin Delano Roosevelt...
Excuse me, Chad. Here is a flash from the Associated Press, Dateline Dallas. 2 priests who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. There is no further confirmation, but this is what we have on a flash basis from the Associated Press. 2 priests in Dallas who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. There is no further confirmation. This is the only word we have indicating that the president may, in fact, have lost his life. It has just moved on the Associated Press wires from Dallas. The 2 priests were called to the hospital to administer the last rites of the Roman Catholic Church, and it is from them we get the word that the president has died, that the bullet wounds inflicted on him as he rode in a motorcade through downtown Dallas have been fatal. We would remind you there is no official confirmation of this from any source as yet.
Bill, just moments before you brought the flash, I had word from the hospital that the Vice President, Lyndon Johnson, and his wife had just left the hospital, then rushed away into a motorcade and departed.
This, Frank, might be confirmation of the flash.
We must stand by for confirmation, as Bill has emphasized. This is rather sketchy information. We will stand by. We should have...
Now, there apparently is word that this AP flash, this report from the 2 priests, that the president has died of bullet wounds is confirmed. We will attempt now to get to station WBAP-TV in Fort Worth, Dallas for confirmation. We go to newsman Tom Murphy.
Substantiating this, but not confirming it, is a report about 5 minutes ago by the Dallas Police Department to all of its officers that the president had died. Some 3 to 5 minutes later, the AP flashed that 2 priests at the hospital say the president is dead. Charles Murphy, returning now to NBC in New York.
Word from 2 sources. Again, it is not...
Bill, excuse me. We have NBC's Bob McNeil on the line now with the report. Please go ahead, Bob. White House Press Secretary Malcolm Kilduff has just announced that President Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is about 35 minutes ago.
After being shot by an unknown assailant during a motorcade drive through downtown Dallas. The president died approximately 25 minutes after the attack took place. He had been rushed bleeding and unconscious to the Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas and was given blood transfusions. About 15 minutes ago, reports NBC's Bob McNeil from Dallas, to whom I'm talking now. A priest emerged after having given the president the last rites. Just before the announcement of the president's death was made, Vice President Lyndon Johnson emerged grim-faced and was driven off with a police escort to assume the constitutional responsibilities of the presidency. A casket has just been brought into the emergency ward of this hospital for President Kennedy. The attack took place as the president was just completing what amounted to a triumphal drive through downtown Dallas, encountering the largest and in some ways the most friendly crowds of his 2-day Texas tour. Dallas police had put into effect the most stringent security precautions in the city's history.
Because they had anticipated
there might be some demonstrations
against President Kennedy,
like those which
marked the visit
similar to those which marked the visit
of UN Ambassador Adlai Stevenson
on
October 24th. Mrs. Kennedy,
who
was sitting beside the president in the open car,
was not hurt.
However, the governor of Texas, John Connolly, who was also in the car, was wounded reportedly in the chest, and more blood.
Repeat, Bob.
Further supplies of blood
for
transfusions for the governor have just been brought into the hospital. The shooting came, according to witnesses, from the second floor of a building called the Texas School Book Depository, which is about 100 yards from the tree-lined parkway on which the president was driving when the shooting occurred. 3 shots were heard. Frank, that's about all I can tell you at the moment.
Bob, thank you very much. We'll keep the line open.
Okay, we'll keep the line open.
That was a report from NBC's Robert McNeil at the hospital in Dallas, Texas, confirming by way of word from the White House press secretary that President Kennedy is dead.
None of us will ever forget where he was and how he felt when the news was announced. In New York City, for a handful of people, the place was the sidewalk beside the open door of NBC News reporter Gabe Pressman's automobile, listening to the loudspeaker of the car radio. They had known for some minutes that the president was gravely wounded. Then came the instant when the worst was confirmed.
A flash from Dallas. 2 priests who were with President Kennedy say he is dead of bullet wounds. This is the latest information we have from Dallas. We are, of course, standing by to give you all available information as it comes to us. I will repeat with the greatest regret this flash. 2 priests who were with President Kennedy say he has died of bullet wounds.
I find it hard to believe.
Two sources.
On the line now with the report. Please go ahead. It's hard to believe it.
Hard to believe is right.
The
President died.
approximately 25 minutes.
Others, there was a stunned silence and a groping to come to terms with a fact that was almost beyond belief. The face and voice of a young girl summed it up.
Bleeding and unconscious.
To the Parkland Memorial Hospital in Dallas.
What's your feeling right now?
I really couldn't say. Really, right now I just don't know what to do. I don't even know where to go, what to say. Nothing for me to say.
The assassination took place in Dallas as President Kennedy rode in a cavalcade toward the Trade Mart where he was to have luncheon and make a speech. This is what happened, beginning shortly before the shots were fired. The voice is that of Charles Murphy of station WBAP, Fort Worth.
This was a scene near the Stemmons Expressway. This is in front of City Hall in downtown Dallas, a mile east of the shooting scene. Heavy crowds lined the downtown streets to view the presidential party. As in all of the Texas stops, there were many teenagers attracted there by the First Lady and the President. This is Main Street in Dallas. Is this moving west? This is moving west toward the fatal moment. The motorcade is traveling at about 20 to 25 miles an hour, slowly westward down Main Street in the heart of Dallas. The time, about 12:20. During the noon hour, heavy crowds from downtown offices lining the route. That looks like the school depository building on the right. I'm not sure. This is the scene of confusion. Something has happened here. The cameraman running toward the scene to the presidential car ahead of him. We caught just a blurred glance of the old school depository building from which the sniper fired the shot. This is the reaction from the crowd. All is confusion at the scene. Here a woman shelters herself. Now racing toward the hospital. On Stemmons Freeway, past the trademark to the right where the president was to have spoken, where he was to have criticized the fanatical right. There, a picture. That is Parkland Hospital, 1.5 miles to 2 miles from the shooting scene. Parkland Hospital, where the president died in Dallas. At the time these films were shot, of course, the presidential car was already at the hospital. This is Major General Clifton, the military aide of the president, press secretary going into the hospital.
That was silent film of the events along the presidential line of ride, immediately surrounding the fatal moment and described later by reporter Murphy. Thousands had massed 10 and 12 deep along the curb to see the President of the United States. The assassination happened so swiftly, and the motorcade sped off so quickly that few saw it actually taking place. A Dallas man had taken his small son to see the President. Here he tells what he saw.
Unfortunately, I was probably 15 to 20 feet away from the President when it happened.
Tell us exactly what you saw, sir.
He was coming down the street, and my 5-year-old boy and myself were by ourselves on the grass there on Palmer Street, and I asked Joe to wave to him, and Joe waved, and I waved, and the man...
That's all right, sir.
You go ahead and tell him. As he was waving back, he was the shot rang out, and he slumped down in the seat, and his wife reached up toward him, and as he was slumping down, and the second shot went off, and it just knocked him down from the seat.
Two shots.
Two shots.
Did you see the man who did this?
No, sir, I did not see the man who did it. All I did was look in the man's face when he was shot there and saw that expression on his face and grab himself and slide. And the second one, whenever it went, why, I'm positive it had hit him. I hope it didn't, but I'm positive it had hit him, and he went all the way down in the car. Then they speeded up, and I didn't know what was going on, so I just grabbed the boy and fell on him in the hopes that there wasn't a maniac around. I'm sorry. I can't help you more, but I won't forget it.